What is up, guys? Welcome back to another Diesel Dog video. Friday night out in the garage here on the back of my old pickup. Been another long week on the old turbo diesels and gassers. Been working on a lot of gas trucks, but thought maybe I'd take a minute to go over my whole week as a medium heavy duty truck mechanic. So every job I had this week I wrote down. I've got it on a piece of paper here. Get it out of my cheat sheet because there's no way I could remember every vehicle I worked on this week. I can't even remember what I worked on yesterday. So got it all written down here. Let's go over it. All right. Monday morning, walking in the shop, take a sip of my nice hot coffee. First job on the docket is a 2022 E350, Ford E350, front and rear brakes, rotors, calipers. And I ran into a little snag on this thing, so we got the rotors for it. And the rear ABS ring bolts, 3 bolts to the inside of the rotor, inside of the hat. And the new rotors we got from Napa did not have threaded holes to bolt the ABS ring to. So called Ford, not available. Can't get it. They're back order. There's already like 1,700 orders spoken for, so we're getting put in line. So we decided to drill our own in these rotors. So all I did was I took the new rotor, laid it up on its back side, took the old rotor, laid it over top of that, drilled, took my drill bit and started each hole while it was together. I took some bolts actually and put them through the stud holes too to kind of make sure everything was lined up. So then I pulled the old rotor off, finished drilling my holes, tapped the threads, and worked out good. No ABS code or anything. It probably took me an extra hour or so, but beats waiting, however many months for freaking brake rotors for E350. So finished that off, I got all that done, and then ended the day with a 2020 Pete with the pack car in it, check engine light, ended up being a code for DOC efficiency, diesel oxidation catalyst efficiency. And then it was time to go home. So Tuesday morning, finished the diag. So I did get the full story on this thing. This thing's been in the shop a few times with the same code. And essentially what I ended up doing was pulling the inlet pipe, getting the scope down in there, the camera, our Snap-on camera, stuck it down in there to look at the face of the DOC and found that like half of it was plugged. So needed a DOC. We had to order one. Someone else ended up having to finish it. So then I had a 2020 Chevy 2500. This had a 6.6 gas motor in it. Complaint was a clunk coming to a stop. So checked the brakes and stuff. Brakes and everything were good. Didn't find anything loose suspension-wise or anything like that. So I ended up test driving it. The trans had a hard downshift going back into the first, like accelerating fine, coming back to a stop. Once it went into first gear, boom, just smacked into first gear. So I ended up checking for some TSBs. I found something that actually wasn't necessarily related, but we did call the dealer and they were able to find that the transmission had already been replaced in this thing like November of 21. So now we're February of 23. So pretty recent. And being a 2020 pickup, I told him, probably should take it back to the dealer that replaced the transmission. Maybe it needs a software update. I don't know. Maybe it's another junk transmission. I don't know why it got replaced for the first time, but so that was that. And then it got an inspection. Found a left rear marker light out, and I changed it. So then we had a 14 F250 6.7 liter check engine light at a P207F reductant quality. I ended up doing a bunch of diag on this thing. Ended up doing the DEF quantity test, where you pull the DEF injector out and you do the quantity test, put a cup in front of it, you let it spray, and then you measure how much comes out of it. So during the test, it should have around 40, I believe, 30 to 40 milliliters come out of it. And I had, or 40 to 50 milliliters, sorry. 40 to 50 milliliters, and I had like 60 coming out. So it was over spraying. And I also took the camera, stuck it down in there, and I found some like crystallization deposits from the DEF fluid. And so I advised that I need to try the DEF injector first, and then if that doesn't fix it, it probably needs the whole SCR system replaced. So, and the line pressure was within spec too, so it didn't need a DEF pump. So everything within the DEF system after that checked good. So that's that. Then we had a 2017 F650 with a 6.7 power stroke. Had to check battery draw. They were complaining that the battery is going dead. I didn't really get the full story on this thing till after, but it doesn't matter. It happens. So ended up checking the power battery draw. And if you are not familiar with checking battery draws on newer vehicles, you need to let them sit for, I would say, a minimum of 20 minutes, but I usually try to go like a half hour, even 40 minutes, just to make sure everything is quieted down and don't have anything extra talking to each other, pulling any amps or anything like that. So after about a half hour, I had 80 milliamps draw, which a lot of these pickups, I usually do see over like 50 milliamps, and they don't have any issues. I think this thing, they had put batteries in it, and I think they probably just had junk batteries before it came to us. But I did notice when I unplugged the data log, the electronic log, it did drop to under 50 milliamps, so within spec. But I think with it plugged in at 80 milliamps, if you're driving it every day, then you probably wouldn't see an issue, other than if you have bad batteries. And that's what nope, never mind. There's some more. Then I also had a check engine light, had a boost code. I ended up pulling the map sensor off the very top of the upper intake plenum on the power strokes is your map sensor, your boost pressure sensor. I find those plugged up all the time. So first thing I always check is that sensor. It's one 7mm bolt. You can pull it right out, and found it plugged up. But I also noticed that like half the upper plenum intake bolts were completely loose. Like someone stuck it on there, didn't even start them. They were just loose in the intake. So half of them being loose, you'll get a boost leak there. So that probably was part of their problem. The map sensor being plugged was probably part of their problem. Oh, and I took the intake boot off the turbo. Looked, and I always inspect that too with boost pressure codes, and found the fins. They start to get a little kind of chipped off and stuff, and worn down. So I noticed the fins didn't look the best, and I spun it, and every once in a while I was getting a hard spot, so it needs a turbo too. So obviously the plenum will be off for the turbo and all that, so that'll all get taken care of then. Boost pressure sensor, turbo, and should be good after that. All right, Wednesday, first thing in the morning, had to check a popping noise on the rear of an Escalade. I didn't find anything. Could have been a rock spitting up into the wheel well or something, but I didn't find anything there, so that didn't take too long. And then the 17 F650 from the day before, I did go out and double check, made sure it started right up, and it started right up and ran for them, so I don't think they have any battery draw issue there. That didn't take any time at all, just something I noted on there because something I did during the day. So then I had the 2014 F250 from the day before. I R&R'd the DEF injector, retested it, and I had right at 50 milliamps, so that was okay. Ran a regen, test drove multiple times, never acted up, so called it good. So I had a 2016 Volvo VNL D13. This is like the first, oh no, I had the Pete. Work on a lot of pickups, more pickups than big trucks nowadays. So. But anyway, so then I had a 2016, the Volvo SCR codes. I had like 25 active or inactive codes. a bunch of communication codes for the after treatment control module. So I don't know about you guys, but anytime I see like a ton of codes, I usually will copy whatever's active, blow them all out, see what comes back. And being there with so many codes, it always gets me a little nervous. Like, all right, I'm in for a good diag in here. So went through all that, located the ACM fuse, which was coming off a wire off the battery, and just so happened the post that it goes to, the nut was completely loose. It was like only threaded on like 2 threads. Okay, so I also noticed that before I found that, I also noticed that it was hard cranking, real slow, and then like every once in a while it would just pick back up and then start up. So that was something I was going to look into anyways, like the batteries for corrosion, or test the batteries themselves. And then before I found the nut loose, I had my meter on the battery, one of the batteries, the nuts were tight on that one, and was checking my cranking voltage, and I noticed that my cranking voltage was dropping to like 8 volts while I was cranking real slow. So I was like, well, that'll probably be my voltage and communication codes right there, because voltage is dropping like way below 10 volts even. So I thought that was going to be the issue. And then I ended up looking for the fuse for the after treatment control module, and that's what led me to the wire coming off that one post and was loose. Tighten that up. I mean, the thing cranked super fast, no problems. Codes flew out of there. Everything was good. Simple as that. You don't get that lucky too often, but pretty nice, easy, somewhat easy diag there. Just kind of a goofy issue. You never know what you're going to run into. Then I had to do a DOT inspection on it, and I found that it needed all drive brakes. They were out of spec. The drums, the shoes, the thickness on the shoes technically was within DOT specifications, but with the drums, they had such a bad lip on them. And if you don't know, 1/8 inch is spec on a drum. So that's not 1/8 inch up here, 1/8 inch down here. That's 16th inch up here, 16th inch down here. So like technically a 16-inch lip is spec on one side. 1/8 inch, both sides is out of spec. So yeah, they were way past that. So I needed drums. Might as well price some shoes at the same time. Make sure everything's new, nothing's worn, like no grooves are worn into the shoes, and then you're putting on a new drum or anything like that. So, and then it needed a jaw kit. Hopefully everyone's checking fifth wheels and DOT inspections. I've seen guys possibly not do that, but so the type of jaws where they got the grooves on them and they kind of ride on each other, those grooves should keep the thing from going side to side. If you stick your pin, your test pin, whatever you got made up for the fifth wheels, and you stick it in there and it's going side to side, you need to check those jaws, because the ribs will wear down smooth and you'll get that side to side movement. So technically, I don't think it's gonna like come undone and release the trailer from the fifth wheel, but I mean, the whole purpose of tractor trailer is to haul the trailer. It's a pretty important part. I would like, when I do an inspection, I would like to see everything exactly how it should be. Nothing goofy like that going on. And it's only going to get worse if that trailer, all that weight in that trailer's slamming side to side with those jaws moving like that, then you're going to end up getting issues anyways. So you might as well fix it. So Thursday, first thing in the morning, I had a 2015 F250 6.7, had an oil leak. This was kind of a weird thing they had called, wanting to know how much a front main seal on a Power Stroke 6.7 would be, and I kind of my boss kind of suspected it might be the vacuum pump, and he asked me about it, and I agreed, like, yeah, you probably should look into the vacuum pump on those. They leak oil all the time first. Before, I've never seen a front main on a Power Stroke leaking. Anyway, so this guy ended up, a few days later, brought it in, and we confirmed that it was the vacuum pump leaking, like, bad. Like, and then he said, yeah, I was trying to find the quote from the other shop, but that was like 3 years ago. 3 years ago. So he made it sound like it was just in the shop like that day when he was calling. He was just getting a second opinion. It's been 3 years that he got this oil leak checked out. He's just been letting it leak anywhere, anyways. So yeah, it was a gusher. And he also had check engine light, same code as the other one, the 207F. I ended up cleaning the def injector hole, was pretty plugged up. I did the quantity test and it passed. So in the meantime, I ended up replacing the vacuum pump. We got approval, replaced it, ran the regen, test drove. It also put steer shocks on it. So I had a 2015 F550 R&R, the mass airflow regen. It was okay, and it stayed in the shop because it got a bunch of more work, but I got that out of the way. So for Friday, continued on the F550. Got a bunch of front end stuff, drag link, both ends and collar, tie rod ends, not the collar, steering box, steer shocks, track arm and ball joint, the steering dampener, alignment, test drive, boom, done. Friday, done. Here I am, hanging out, toasting to a good week. I don't know if any of you guys are interested in some of the stuff I do, but I feel like these videos are kind of helpful to you younger guys, and maybe it gives you a little taste of what you'd be in for when you get out in the field, or strive for if you're starting out or doing whatever. I mean, we're in an independent shop, so we kind of get anything and everything, which I like. I'm not working on the same thing every day. It's all different. I'm personally working on more pickups than I am semis. Some of the other guys in the shop don't touch pickups at all, hardly. So anyways, good week. Thanks guys for checking out the video. Hope it was helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next one.